Okay, we're on the very end of Daf 75 Ayin Hey. However, how is it that we can be the presence of the infinite light on a person's nefesh? That is Seviv Kalamin, that no thought can grasp, and Hashem is not a composite of midos. Now, this is through the avodah of Karbonis that bridges this gap. Like the pasuk says, Lachmi, my bread, Ishai, my fire. Karbonis come from the living beings, from animals, which is the Yesod HaEsh, because the four elements of doime, mineral, tzameach, vegetable, chai, animal, and medaber parallel the four Yesodis of Eish, Mayim, Ruach, and Ofar. Ofar, dust, is doime, inanimate. Mayim is tzameach, because the water is what gives life to all vegetation. Zerei kol hamayim. Fire is chai, like the pasuk in Tillim that says that Hashem's servants have this fiery flame. And what are those? Those are the face of the lion and the ox of the Merkava. And they have the appearance of this fiery flame, like the fire of lightning. And from them, it manifests the souls of all living animals, like the Zohar describes. Ruach is human beings who speak. Like it says that Hashem created them as a living being. And Onkelos translates the word lenefesh chaya to Ruach, that lives. Now, Yesod HaEsh down here in the carbon comes and it becomes subsumed within the conceptual idea of the element of fire within the atmosphere that came down from above to below onto the Mizbeach to consume and to burn the carbon. Like we have the concept that our davening is in the stead of the Karbonis, like we say in Yitzhar, that in the bracha before the Kriya Shema in the morning, that we describe how the malachim are inflamed and are sanctified, and they declare with this fire. We're now in Daf Ayin Tov, and that it fires up the nefesh habahamis, that is the behemoth that is with the fire quality within the person, that becomes passionate about material things. We override that passion with iskafia and ishapcha, so that our passion is for Hashem, like the description that her passion is for her husband, which is a metaphor for the Jewish people and Hashem, who is their husband. Now, through this idea of Ishe, Eish Yud, the fire of Hashem, the Eish that comes down from above, the level of Seviv Kolam, and to elevate the fire of the animal soul, which is a descriptive of the passions of the Nefesh HaBahamis, you get the level of Isha, the Eish Hey. Like it says, Smoiloi Tachas L'Roishi, that the left hand is the fiery flame from above, and this elevates it from below to above. Now, this is through, or the concept of the fire from above that is drawn down through Lachmi, my breads, which is a reference to the Karbonis, like the Yidden who provide parnasa for Hashem. Just like bread that sustains a person biologically, settles his soul, that it should be rested within his body, that when a person is hungry because he hasn't eaten, his soul is leaving his body, and through some bread, it returns it back to its strength, and it reintegrates the soul within the body. Similarly, all of the olamais are called a form of a body. Like the Zohar says, V'kama gufin tiknun loin, how many gufin are there? In order that there should be the resting and the expression of the neshama, the Seviv Kolalmin, that again, Hashem is not a composite of parts. This is through bread representing the Srusa de la Sata that becomes a Srusa de la Eila, the level of Ish A, the Eish Yud. And this is also why it is described as Reich Nechoichi, as we asked earlier, why are Karbanas specifically described as Reich Nechoich? Reach, the aroma, is the elevation from below to above. Nechoichi is from this loftiest of level, the drawing down from above to below. And also from the concept of ka, menucha. Like we say, nachas ruach lafanai, you have created a nachas to me, that I spoke and you did my will. Now, these are all one and the same, that we draw down this level of Eish from above, the Eish Yud, from the level called Seviv Kolam, and into a Ratzon Elyon that is higher than Chachma. Now, Chachma is the beginning of a Shtalshlis, through the 10 statements that Hashem created the world. The first is Bereshis, and Chachma comes from Ayin, like Yoiv says, from the level of Ayin, which is Ratzon Elyon, the inarticulable, the ultimate essence of it. And the Ratzon of this elevation is drawn down in the level of Asiya, and this is what it means that we effectuate his will. Like we know that Ein Sof comes from itself. That is, there's no level of a Ratzon It's simply that Hashem has the dir b'tachtenim, because no matter has any stature before him, and nothing is comparable. And if you do good, what does it add to? Simply, this is Hashem's will. So no matter, no thing can affect that will. It's simply Hashem's will that through a Serusa de Lasata via Torah and mitzvahs, Hashem responds with Serusa de Laela of the Ratzon Elyon. And this is what it means, that it's a nachas that I spoke, Hashem, Shamarti, that is Torah, and through the fulfillment of Torah, we effectuate the Ratzon of Hashem to dwell down here in this physical world in a revealed manner. Now, these two levels, which are an elevation, they're drawing down, are established in or are effectuated through the two tefillos of Shachris and Mincha. Shachris is the elevation from below to above. When we declare Baruch Sha'amar, we're talking about the level of Asiyah, because we describe what Hashem has made. Then we have the Psukei de Zimra, where we describe Hashem, and we cry Kriya Shema, which is again elevating ourselves above ourselves by speaking about the wondrous level of Hashem. Then we have Mincha, which again is the idea of Menucha, of calm, which is the drawing down from above to below in the davening of Shemona Esrei. Because in Mincha, we really only have the Shemona Esrei, whereas in Shachris, you have Baruch Sha'amar, you have the Psukei de Zimra, you have Kriya Shema, which are all about an elevation from below to above. And the Shemona Esrei is a drawing down from above to below. The 18 times that we say Baruch Ata, each one is a drawing down of, like the Akedas Yitzchak that is assumed with Yitzchak within Avraham. Now, this intertwining, this subsumption, this escalators of the Eish from above and the Eish down here is through es Korbani. Why does it say S? S suggests all of the letters of the Aleph base from Aleph till Tuf, that those are the Karbonis. They are brought close to me. They bring me close. Like it says, the words that I place in your mouth. And like he says, Masnisa, the Mishnah, that is the Malchus, that he's like a king who commands us to do a mitzvah. And whoever calls out in Torah, Hashem calls out and learns with him. That through the engagement in the words of Torah, we have a total bittul and unity within the thought, speech, and action, our thoughts and Hashem's thoughts, our words and Hashem's words. Now, this level of bittul is the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. Like we know, Moshe is told to command the Jewish people and to tell them regarding the Karbanis, that through the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu commands, Tzav, unifies with the Jewish people, that is, he brings them his quality of Moshe, that speaks to them, that there should be a total unification of Moshe's speech with our speech. Now, in Torah, there are two levels. There is Torah Shebechsav and Torah Sheba'al Peh. The Tanakh, which is called Mikra, calling, like you call somebody, like a summons. And that is all of Torah. Torah is the words and the names of Hashem. And regarding Tanakh, we say that all the letters are in fact Hashem. Now, when it comes to Torah Sheba'al Peh, that we are told, Tishmeru, to guard. Shamar, Zu Mishnah. How do we guard Torah? We do it through the study of Torah Sheba'al Peh. Shamor, guarding, is the feminine quality. That is, the man entrusts something with the woman and she guards it. It is a recipient. And that is Torah Sheba'al Peh, that is Mekabel, it receives, and it is thus allows for the Torah Shebechsav to be held closely within the person, within the Ishai, Eish Yud. And what is the measure of a rational person? That they do not dismiss, they do not forfeit mashna noisnim, like what you give them. What is this level called? Ma of what? That is the level of bittul, this level of wonder, where we never forfeit that sense of openness. Like we say, v'nachnu ma, and ma is given to a person from above. And we have to make sure not to forfeit it. That's the ma that is given to him. And this is effectuated through the shamor, through the Mishnah. Because Torah Sheba'al Peh allows us to grasp God's will, to know the laws, to know the commandments, which is not the case in Torah Shebechsav, where we don't have the revelation of God's desire. Because when the pasuk says something as ambiguous as, quote, ukshartem liyos, we don't know what that is until it's explained that it means the tefillin as we know it, the 4 Parshas and the boxes and the threads, etc. That is because everything in Torah Sheba'al Peh is designed to be makabel and thus to frame the Ratzon Elyon from Orin Seif Baruch to allow it to rest amongst us, and in which manner? That if we do it properly, then the Ratzon of Hashem rests within from the Orin Seif, and if not, it's not. And that's why it's also the level of Kli Kabbalah for the level of Eish Yud that rests within the person, to frame it that it should be a passion and a desire to Hashem, that it should remain within the heart, it should be captured within the heart and never be forfeited. But Torah Shebechsav is primarily about the letters, that we should have the form, that we should read it as it is written. These are the names of Hashem, which is not the case of Torah Sheba'al Peh, where it's not so much about the precise words and the precise letters, etc. It's all called oral Torah, Torah Sheba'al Peh. Now, Torah Shebechsav is Kriya, and that is, we call it the Karbonis. Torah Sheba'al Peh is Shmira, like we said. Now, this is all within the category of speech, Talmud Torah, regarding which we say is Korbani, Tishmero, and the level of Machshava, that's Tefillah, and to bring it close to us, but Mayodai, these are the Yamim Tovim, are the three Regalim. Now, we know that the davening throughout the weekdays is drawn down from Shabbos. Kodesh hi lachem, that is, this highest level of Kodesh is separated, and it should be drawn down, like it says, V'shomru derech Hashem. This is a description of Avram Avinu, that he will observe, he will guard the path of Hashem, namely, Lasei Tzedakah. What is derech Hashem? This is a drawing down for like a person who travels from city to city. And this is similar to the Moyadim. The Moyadim are also called Mikroi Kodesh. Kodesh is what they are called. We draw them down, and through them and via them, that it should be drawn down in the davening throughout our weekdays. And here's the parallel. Pesach is the quality of Avram. It's also the quality of Shachris, from below to above, like we described before. Shavuos is the level of Yitzchak. The sound of the shofar is reminiscent of the ram of Yitzchak. That's Mincha. And Sukkot is Yaakov, like it says, Yaakov traveled to a place called Sukkos. That's Ma'ariv. Now, all of these levels a person has to fulfill, like all mitzvahs. But in each mitzvah, there is a revelation within the person. And the Karbanos, it is in the Yesod HaEsh, that like the fire that would come down and be revealed. This revelation could only occur in the Beis HaMikdash. And therefore, the Karbanos are linked specifically to the Beis HaMikdash, which answers one of our questions, which is not the case with other mitzvahs. Even the thought mitzvahs and the speech of Karbanos are not linked to the Beis HaMikdash, as we can daven, which parallels, and we can think about it. And that can occur even in Gullus, because that level of revelation can occur under all circumstances. That in order for it to be drawn down into this physical world, in actuality, there has to be the root of the drawing down from above. Like Hamagbil Hasheves, Hamashpil Lirais. The level of the Olam and the Chetzonius receives from the loftiest of levels higher than the Shtalshus. And therefore, in order that there be this revelation b'Chetzonius, there has to be the source of the Hamshacha that comes from above. Now, this is similar to the idea of splitting of the Yamsuf, which is an inyan that the hidden becomes revealed. And therefore, the source of this Hamshacha through the revelation that's so intense from the highest of highest levels from which it is drawn down, it shakes up the whole Seder Shtalshus. And similarly, also the idea of the fire that is above that comes down here on the Mizbeach. This is drawing down from Alma Diskasi, the hidden world, the Seiv of Kolam, and down to his Alma Diskalia, in order that there should be this revelation in this physical world, in that which is visible to us. This is linked exclusively to the Beis HaMikdash, and again, this is why Karbanos can only be brought in the physical sense in the Beis HaMikdash, because the level of bias, the house surrounds, representative of Makif, that is higher even than the Makif of Alma of Iskasia, the hidden Makif. And from there, Dafka, you can draw down this power to have this Eshalamai, the Seiv of Kol Almin, and should be revealed in Payam Mamish. We could also add, like explained in other places, based on what it says in the beginning of the Parsha, Sholach Ha'ois, they asked him for a sign, Habei Lamayni, brought him up. That sign was the sign of Yud. We're now on Ayin Vav, page 76, Amud Gimel. This is a beer, an explanation on the pasuk of Es Korbani Lach. Now the pasuk tells us that Hashem put Adam here, La'avdo L'Shamar, to work the garden and to protect it. That Adam makes Gan Eden. That is, he draws down the Gili Elikos from Ein Sof to be Gan Eden. Now, we are told that with Yud, the world is created. That is, with the Yud of Tzimtzum, this Ha'ara, this tiny little point that has no end, it has no purpose, it has no goal, there's no thought that can grasp it. It can't be ascertained by human seichel to create some sort of tainig of the neshamas. He only has the pleasure of some glimpse of it, like the clarity of the sun or of a bright fire, that you can't look directly into it because it's so bright. And so too, when it comes to comprehension of the Or Ein Sof, it's not shaykh that you should have full-on understanding because it's too bright. The darkness is pushed away. It's only through the tzimtzum, this little tiny bit, that you can have this understanding. This is what we mean with Olam Haba, which is the revelation of this hasaga to human seichel, that they should have some alignment with it, some pleasure, but the pleasure of grasping it. And therefore, Olam Haba is built through rigidity, din kasha, like it's explained in Sfarim, that this world, it says, Olam Chesed Yibana, but Olam Haba is via Midas Hadin. Why? Because the difficulties of this world are called the difficulties of Av and Chesed, because through the difficulties we become stronger. A person, God forbid, loses money, they have, God forbid, a physical injury. It's incomparable to the penalties or the sufferings of Gehenna, that the fire of this world is like 1/60th of that fire. And if a person is, God forbid, sentenced to be punished in Gehenna, it's better that he has the sufferings here in this world to offset them. So that's a chesed. Whereas in Olam Haba, there's a harsher penalty of Gehenna, because Olam Haba is built on the model of Gevura, harshness and rigidity, and therefore repays the wicked with according to his wickedness. And this is because Olam Haba, which is the revelation of Asaga and the Tanya of the Neshamas, is through Gevura and Tzimtzum. Now, Hashem, like it says, wants to make known his power, to make known his Gevura. This is through just a tiny glimpse. That's his Gevura. This is the Tzimtzum, that he restrains himself from overwhelming us. And therefore you have the Malachim and the Neshamas, each one is individuated. You have the Machne Mechal, that's Ava, the Machne Gavriel, that's Yira. This is because of the characteristic of Gevura that individuates them. The Ava we have is not like the Ava of Mechal, it's a different level. Again, otherwise we overwhelming, etc. Similarly, the Neshama, when it's dispatched throughout the body, the Neshama itself is not individualized. Nevertheless, it dispatches the power of sight to the eyes, the power of hearing to the ears, and each body part gets its capacity without there being a specific logic to it. The seichel and so forth that rests in the mind, and there's not the power of physical sight. The ear receives the power of hearing, etc. And each one of them receives their individuated capacity. Now, all of Hishtalshalis is orderly. It's a process. It comes from makif to panimi. Makif is what goes into the keli cannot absorb it. And from there, it goes from the makif and then into the panimi. The panimi is a minor insight from the level of makif that is drawn down to be in the panimi. And from the panimius, it becomes to a makif hatachtai. And then a little tiny bit of it actually becomes manifest and grasped from the mother level to the Zah level, and from Zah down to Malchus and so on, this whole process. Just like spoken words are proceed from thought. Not every thought can be expressed in words, only a tiny bit of it. And then from Seichel down to Midas. So too, from the contemplation of davening, that there's not going to be an inspiration of the heart with all of that that's commensurate exactly with the intensity of the understanding. It's just going to be a tiny bit. And this is called the terms of the circle and the straight line. That initially it is drawn down in a circle, and then there is this straight combination, this level of Adam, this power of vision, the 248 different limbs. There's like the process of pregnancy and nursing and minor or undeveloped intellect, a greater developed intellect, which is not the case when you have a circle where there is no differentiation. And in general, this impact from the loftiest of levels is down to the more tangible. It's called ma and ban. That ma is makif relative to ban. And these are different Kabbalistic terms that describe the different way in which we can spell out the letters of Hashem's name. Now, even though Shem Ma is a pnimi, but relative to ban, it's makif. The shirish of ma is from the forehead, the mitzvah of Adam Kadmon. And from there, that is called constantly the level of Ratzon. Like it says, it's on his mitzvah l'Ratzon, like the Kohen Gadol wore the headband to bring about this level of acceptability of the people, and it's called in the Zohar the deepest of deepest. Now, the name Ban is called Nukva. Shamor is Nukva, Zohar is Dechuda. Shamor is feminine, Zohar masculine, because Malchus, which is Torah Shemal Peh, is Malchus is Ban, and Ma is Torah Shebechsav, through Chachma. Like Ma, again, the word which is the willingness to explore the unknown. Now, the clarification of Gan Eden, that is to draw down the Or Ein Sof for the level of Max to become a Pnimi, and the Hamshacha, that should be Bittul, because the Or Ein Sof only rests on that which is Batal, and Ma is the level of total Bittul, like we say, Moshe says, V'nachnu Ma. Now, initially, we clarify this level of Olam Atzilus, this that's not Batal, cannot have divine godliness resting there. Nevertheless, it is pushed to the world of Bria. That Be'erich, the world of Bria, it's considered the level of Bittul, that the Malachim and the Neshamas, the level of the Nevraim, are Batal, even though that relative to the level of Atzilus, it's not a total Bittul, to have an overwhelming Gila like you have in Atzilus, but it's a level of Bittul, again, it's on the spectrum. And then it's pushed down to the level of Yitzira until the ultimate Birur is in the lowest level, the level of Asiyah. And this is represented in the bowing at Moedim. That bowing is the level of acknowledgement. And like it says in the Gemara, that anybody who doesn't bow down will ultimately become a snake, like a snake that has no backbone. What is the mashal of a snake? The snake is klipa. And that is, if they don't have bittul, represented by the bowing down, they will have like the snake, which is total klipa. They will not also get up in Tchias HaMeis. Now, for this, in Olam Haba, you can't change the reason for what is drawn down into Olam Hazek. So Olam Haba is the world after Birur. That is, that it's already been drawn down after the Birur from Shema of the level of Makis to be a Pnimi and a Gilia, Saga and a Tainik to everything that is created. And this has already been identified. You've pulled out the good from the bad. That the Ra is pushed away and it is detached for itself to become these malachim who can cause damage and destruction, which is not the case in Olam Hazeh, where you have Olam Habira, where everything has got to be clarified, that it radiates there, the Shema that clarifies in Torah and mitzvahs, that a person then can change himself. He can go from being bad to being good. And this drawing down of this power of the Shema to be Mavar, the Shem Ban, is drawn down from the Ratzon Elyon, from the highest of highest, regarding which it says there is no explanation. It's beyond explanation. And this is what we mean when we say Nachas Ruach Shamarti V'Nasar Ratzaini, that it becomes a Ratzon Elyon, that there's no explanation for it. And it's called Nachas Ruach, a calming of the spirit, because the Ruach is in the Avir, which is or Yud. Aleph, Vez, Yud, Resh, or Yud, which is the makar of the Oisius of Torah. And this is the level of Torah Shebechsav, which is higher than grasping, which is primarily not in the Oisius in their shape, but in the halachas, that is in the conceptual idea, that cannot be grasped merely from Torah Shebechsav, because there it's so ambiguous to say bind it without Arn Yeram, without knowing what it is, until we have the Torah Shabbal Peh that explains what Toitafos means and the 4 boxes, etc., all of the details, the size of a sukkah, and so on, which is the expression not of the letters, but of the Ratzain, that we become a Keli to receive the expression of what it is that Hashem truly wants. And this is what allows us to have godliness dwell within our humanity via this understanding.